Good morning and welcome to P&B Sports Show. I'm Abel Sunday. We begin with deeply troubled news from the Nigerian Top Flight League, where Ghanaian footballer Nana Kwame Abraham is being attacked by a spectator following his goal for Barrow FC in their match against Katsina United. It is an incident that raises serious concern about safety discipline and the state of our professionalism within the domestic game. In Europe, the situation surrounding Ademola Lookman at Atlanta has intensified. Reports indicate a heated confrontation nearly occurred between the player and his manager following Lookman's substitution during their weekend league fixture, adding a new layout of complexity to an already unsettled relationship. To provide expert analysis on this development, we have been joined virtually by our distinguished guests from the ancient city of Benin, Erujon, and from the Center of Excellence, Wisdom Chimoba. Grab your teacup because P&B Sports start now. Welcome back. It's P&B Sports Show live, reaching you live from the nation's capital. Gentlemen, thank you for being here with me this morning. Wisdom, how is Lagos this morning? I don't know if the Harmattan have started blowing down there in Lagos.
Good morning, Mr. Abel. Great to be here. I mean, Lagos is doing well. It rained yesterday. Today is a very sunny day, so yeah, I think Lagos is treating us well.
Okay, over to the ancient city of Benin. John, I don't know the museum. How far with the museum? What's the saga? What's going down there? I was thinking that we might have some. Maybe we would have some. Maybe Bender Insurance could have a game during the opening of that museum. But the whole saga around it is becoming political. Don't you think so?
Yeah, it's becoming rather political, and well, by the grace of God, the matter has already been handled by the state government and the Palace of the Oba. So we hope that some positive news will come out of it in the coming days.
Okay, let's not just leave politics for politics. Let's go into football and let's dive into the conversation. The charity begins at home. Let's start with this Kwame Abraham. That was attacked during the weekend for that plays for Barrow FC, and he scored a goal against Katsina United, and all of a sudden the fans came in and he was attacked then. But of course, during I think after I think on Monday or so or Tuesday, he released we saw a video of him. I think he's doing so fine now already. Thank God for that. So let me start with you. Wisdom, before I come over to Eru. Wisdom, with such situations surrounding our football, violent and stuff like this, don't you think is killing the passion and the growth of the game gradually?
Well, I mean, it is. But before I go on, just to quickly clarify, the whole incident, because I mean, a lot of reports have gone on social media as to what actually happened. Initial report came out to say that he was attacked by a fan, and his throat was slit and all of that, but that was not actually the case.
Yeah.
So initially, he was something. A fan actually, threw something, from the stand. It was more like a stone or a bottle, you understand, and that was what hit him.
Yeah.
It wasn't that a fan, ran onto the field and then slit his throat, like social media reports suggested. You understand? Yeah. So it was just something that was thrown at him. Eventually, I mean, the player is working, is doing fine, and everything. In fact, clubs have released statements already and all of that. But now talking about the whole situation, I mean, this is not the first time that stuff like this happening in the NPFL. I mean, we've been talking about these things for years. You can go back to, I mean, the past 4 or 5 seasons where it was worse, even down to the refereeing decisions where, at the end of the game, if, the fans feel like, oh, the ref didn't do them well, before you know it, the ref becomes the subject of attack. If the players, they perform well, the players become subjects of attack. It's been going on in the past. And, one thing that amazes me particularly about this year is the fact that last season, we didn't have any of the situation in the NPFL. In fact, last season was almost perfect in terms of officiating, the standard, everything. Last season has to be one of the best seasons in NPFL history, where we didn't record any case of violence. The quality of the games we saw, the goals, everything. In fact, I was proud of the NPFL last season. And heading into this season, I was hoping that, that would be the same story. I was hoping that we would continue on the same trend. But then, the NPFL just had to remind me that I'm still in Nigeria, that we are not in Europe yet. And everything returned back. And in fact, this season alone has been crazy. We've also, seen Canopilas do their own, the pitch invasion that, they did. In fact, within this season alone, we've seen about 10 major match disruption alone. And we're just in November. We've seen about 10 match disruptions already in the NPFL. In fact, there's also the case of El Kanemi Warriors, where they were also fined for vandalism, and all of that. So it's a very sad situation, and we really cannot continue like this. And it begs the question of what is actually the cause? What is the cause? A lot of things actually behind it, but I will just quickly propose one or two solutions. If anybody from the NPFL board is listening, first of all, I think one of the things that can be done if we are to tackle this is, I don't know if you watch the Turkish league and you watch the Italian Serie A, you notice that most times in the stand,
yes, there's a barricade, like
yes, there's like net barricade, set up in the stadium, because the Italian Serie A and the Turkish league, in fact, they are more crazy. When you see the fans throwing stuff, you see them throwing smoke, throwing some other things, right?
Mhm.
That is one of the things we can do. And now, not to sound tribalistic, okay, holistic. Right now we know the situation of the country and how things are kind of heating up. But the cases that has been recorded, the places that violence has been recorded in the NPFL of this season is coming from the north, right? Now, I'm not trying to sound political or tribalistic, but I'm just pointing that out. And it is very pertinent that is where education needs to start from, okay? It needs to start from there. So we need to go back to those stadium and then set up those FIFA level barriers, and then ensure that there is enough stewards in the game. There's enough security and all of that. And then we're talking about community initiatives. Go there, educate the fans, let them know that football is a game of you win and you lose. You can't win everything. So when it doesn't go your way, learn to endure. That is why it's for football. You're going to win some games, you're going to lose some games, you're going to be pained, you're not going to be happy all the time. It happens, right? So they need to go and educate the fans and let them know about all these things. And finally, one that I think we should take very serious is imposing real punishment on the club. Because I think the clubs need to take initiative about educating their fans. We are seeing fines of 9 billion because for Parao FC, Katsina United already they've received fine. Yes, they've been fined already 9 million. The 3 million for supporter misconduct, 2 million for poor security, 4 million for compensation of damages and harassment and all of that. 9 million, that's not bad. But if the fine is going as far as 20 to 30 million naira, the class 3.6 points, and then I think clubs would really step up in educating their fans and doing the needful.
Okay, thank you, Wisdom. Let me go over to Eru. Eru, with what you've seen, do you think like this shenanigan? Do you think like this shenanigan? Do you think those punishment is huge enough to stop all this shenanigan? And secondly, just like Wisdom has rightly said, don't you think probably point deduction might be the other watchword? But Wisdom still mentioned about something about having a stadium that that will have that the fans might not be able to have access to the fans might not be able to have access to the pitch. So which means you have to have this net down to the up of the roof of the stadium. So with that already you've protected, you've shielded the player.
The Wisdom said I tried to follow the entire competition last season, and there were little or no cases of such incidents. I was beginning to think that we have grown as a footballing nation in respect to our domestic league. I was beginning to think that there has been a revitalization and sense. I think that should be. It was an incident where they were able to salvage it in a couple of minutes. They were able to stabilize the player, and the match had to go on. You see, the peculiar thing about this incident is this: we have countries before, like his reference in the top league, in the Italian league. These things are more. We see them often. It happens even in the English Premier League. Once or twice, we have seen it happen, where fans throw objects at players and all of that. But the peculiar thing about that of the Nigerian Professional Football League is that it is a routine. As a matter of fact, sir, there was a time in this country where talks were going on that away teams can never win football matches. Not because they cannot play to win, but because there is an existential threat. As if you come to, let me use Bender Insurance of Benin, for example. If you come to Benin City to beat Bender Insurance, you and your team may not find your way back to your state.
So you just have to go there and lose.
So you go there, you the best you can do is to play for a draw. I find that ridiculous. I find that archaic. It was a problem, a very huge problem that we still see in some parts of the league today. You have records of some clubs where you cannot go and defeat them because of the kind of supporters and fans that they have. As a matter of fact, you even see situations where supporters are already throwing threats at the opponent team even before the arrival for the match. We have even seen cases where match officials are hijacked and pushed. They are scared. If it were to be so in the English Premier League, maybe the likes of Anthony Taylor would have been there by now. Because it goes far to say that as a nation, as a footballing nation, as supporters, we have a long way to go. I understand that football comes with so much passion and emotions, but we can do better. So, like Mr. Wisdom has rightly said, which I totally support, these menace can be cut to a large extent. My submissions are these: one, let there be a stiffer penalty, not just financially. Let there be point deductions from the team, a huge point deduction, as a minimum of 10 points, not 3 or 6 points, a minimum of 10 points. Deductions, one. A stiffer financial penalty. I believe when you charge a team 50 million naira, they will do better next time. Because that 15 million naira, some of them may even have to rally around themselves to pay it. Because we hear incidents of some of them owing players and all of that. 3, like he had rightly said, let us be this infallible barricade from the stands, the spectator stands, away from the pitch. And also, I think security should be picked up, should be improved upon. in these matches, the presence of security men should be increased in these matches. So as to I know there's little or not so much they can do when the entire fans decide to invade the pitch, but at least if there be a higher security presence, this should at some point pose a fear on the supporters to doing these things. So these are my humble submissions. And lastly, I think, like he rightly said, a proper sensitization should be organized by the various clubs for their supporters, for their fans, and even their players. Because we have even seen incidences where some of these players, they are posing threats to referees, they are posing threats to linesmen, they are posing threats to match commissioners. And this is a huge problem for the league. It is a huge problem. We don't find this often in even our neighboring African countries and their leagues. So it's a problem.
Okay, thank you so much for that analysis, Mr. Eru. Okay, let's move over to our next topic, which I think is the main area of focus and discussion. Ademola Lookman, which is the current African Player of the Year. You remember that during the before this season started, I think during the transfer window, there is this saga that he want to leave to Inter and stuff. And according to rumor, that there's a gentleman agreement already with him and the club that is going to leave end of last season. But of course, as the case may be, the club did not keep to their own bargain, and he was stuck with the club. And if you remember or recall, you will know that I think to an extent this season he did not really play games like that. They didn't start him, they didn't use him like that. Then up till last weekend, when he was substituted, and there was an altercation between him and the coach that also almost got to a fight or something. But come on, is it because he's a black, and everybody have been crying out, is it because he's a black person? That is the reason why he's been treated like that. Because I don't think any white, if he's a white player, I don't think he will be treated like that. That is one. And secondly, what is CAF doing? Because I think CAF is not really vocal enough or to support most of our players down there in Europe. Because I think CAF have all responsibilities, and even the NF. Okay, I will not say NFF also have their own, but I think CAF have a larger responsibility to see how they will protect their own players that are playing in Europe. Let me start with you, Eru, before I go to Wisdom. Eru, what do you think? What are your submissions with all this put together?
My humble submission in regards to this matter is simple. You see, I'm beginning to have observations about the Italian Serie A. Not just because of Ademola Lookman. Victor Osimhen suffered similar treatments in the hands of Napoli before he eventually left to the club. As a matter of fact, if you even see his transfer clause, there is a part of the clause that says he cannot come back to the Serie A for, I think, for 2 years or 3 years. Cannot play for anything in the Serie A for 2 or 3 years. I remember, yes, I read the clause. It's in the clause. I don't want to believe, I'm trying so hard not to believe that these things are done because these guys are Nigerians or because they are black players. Because you begin to wonder, Ademola Lookman was the best player for Atalanta last season. Yeah. Where these problems started. The issue with the coach did not start this season. That last season, it didn't even start during the town. It started last season. I remember a match they played, I think he missed a penalty. He insisted on playing a penalty and he missed the penalty. It caused a very huge problem between him and the coach. As a matter of fact, during the coach's post-match conference, he particularly called out Ademola Lookman as the reason for the loss. Meanwhile, in that same game, Ademola Lookman provided 2 assists. He came off the bench. He didn't start. In that same game, I think he scored and he gave an assist. They lost that game 3-2. Now, he called out this same player. Called him out for indiscipline. He mentioned a lot of things. Ademola Lookman was punished for that. He did not start a couple of games after that. The problem kept on, it persisted, it went on to the transfer window. We don't need to be going over stories. We also what happened with him in the transfer window. How they frustrated his transfer to Inter Milan with different unrealistic clauses, different unrealistic options, and Inter had to pull out of the deal at some point. This season came, he was on the bench until about 2 or 3 games. Before now, that was when he played his first game of the season. And we saw that how that affected him even in the national team. He has been below par in performance for the Super Eagles. Now, to answer your question, do I think this is happening because he's a black player? I am sorry, but I have to say this. I am beginning to believe so. Not just because of him, like I said, but because I have seen similar treatment given to Victor Osimhen, who was Napoli's best player at that time, who was the highest goal scorer in the Serie A at that time, who single-handedly and was very instrumental in Napoli winning the league after so many years. If such player could be given such treatment, and then there's a Lookman who is unarguably your club's best player, gave you a European trophy, scored a hat-trick in the final, and then he's getting such treatment. It really says a lot, sincerely. I even saw on Twitter some clamors where people were beginning to clamor that our Nigerian players should not play in the Serie A anymore. So I believe so. And then for CAF, let me tell you the truth. There is not so much that CAF can do. Sincerely, I think the best CAF can do is to release a statement. That's the best I think CAF can do, to release a statement. CAF cannot go and fight the club. CAF cannot fight. So there's not so much that CAF can do. And then erosion does not expect so much from our footballing bodies in Nigeria and Africa at large. Because even down here, what do? They do little or nothing. So I don't expect so much from them. My focus is not on them. My focus is on how Ademola Lookman can be protected. I don't think CAF can protect him. They can't do anything. There's not so much they can do. So yeah, that's my position.
All right, Wisdom, quickly. Let's go over to you now. And Wisdom, just like Eru have rightly said, don't you think CAF or FIFA, but there's a body that, because if Ademola Lookman was white, let's assume he was even from, let's assume he's an English player. Do you think the English FA wouldn't have pulled in on this matter immediately? They would have gone in with full weight. But because I don't know whether it's because the CAF they have been like athletic, or maybe the inferiority complexity is even affecting the body as a whole, because they are black, they don't have so much voice there. That's why they allow our players to keep on. Because if you also recall, like he rightly said, Victor Osimhen has suffered the same thing. Now Ademola Lookman, but nobody is still saying anything. And I remember Drogba had to take a campaign for this thing towards, I think, during the transfer window or something like that. But let me get your take, Wisdom, quickly before we go over to Super Eagles.
Well, I think first of all, how can you expect a body that has not taken care of itself to take care of someone else or to go outside?
Exactly.
I mean, first of all, you look at CAF. There's a lot of things that I don't even want to go into all those details. CAF has not done what they need to do here in Africa, so they have no mouth outside. Who's going to listen to them? I mean, first of all, we saw what happened, a couple of weeks ago about the whole money FIFA sent to CAF and then the allocation to the NFF and some other nations and what they were meant to do with their money, right? What did they do with it? What did they do with it? So now they want to go outside and begin to talk on behalf of players. I mean, come on, that is even a much worse disgrace. Let me put it that way. There is nothing CAF can do. Like Eru rightly said, I think the best thing is just a statement, and that is all. A statement of okay, this blah blah blah. The normal statement that they would always put out, and that is the highest they can do. I think the more reasonable solution is this. First of all, players, especially African players, Nigerian players that want to go to the Italian Serie A, first of all, make sure you have a good agent. Make sure you have a good agent that has, I don't know if this is the right thing to say or if this is the right way to do, but make sure you have an agent that is a bit crazy or is a bit intentional. What do I mean by that? An agent that would ensure that everything is put into the contract to avoid situations like this. And if situations like this should happen, the player should have the ability to file a case against the club and ensure that the club would lose. Because I think that the reason the clubs, especially Italian clubs, are doing this is because they have the upper hand. I'm sure there are details of that contract that if the player says, okay, I'm going to take this up with the court, the player is going to lose. So I think the agent needs to look at all of this. I think that is one of the things that is going to give players, especially our Nigerian players, an advantage. Because how do you expect the two CAF player, two CAF player of the year awards? I mean, first of all, Victor Osimhen, last season, 2 seasons ago, and then Ademola Lookman, right?
Yeah.
Both of them treated the same way. First of all, by Napoli, we saw how it ended with Osimhen and Napoli, and now Atalanta. And you know what baffles me about Atalanta this season? I mean, the manager that we're even talking about in Atalanta that had an issue with Ademola Lookman. Not to sound sentimental, but I mean, this man has been sacked 4 times within how many years? Wow, come on. It's not even, I'm not, I wonder what level of manager is that. I don't know, he's not even, they can't even manage it. Come on. So, what my point is this, right? There's nothing CAF can do, neither the NFL. It all boils down to the players and their agent, right? And the Italian Serie A is starting to become a red flag. Especially for Nigerian players. And I think that is one thing that we need to know. And another thing is, I don't know, Nigerians, I was very displeased when, the Ademola Lookman issue was happening. And I saw a lot of Nigerians on social media saying, oh, it's Lookman's fault, this is that. And I was really pained. Because when you expect that support from Nigeria,
yes, they're not giving it to you. Yeah.
That when you don't need it, that is when you begin to see sympathy falling in from left, right, and center. I mean, it was very annoying to see that because everything was clear, But I think apart from the agents doing their job, I think Nigerians, we need to be more vocal in supporting our own. We need to be more vocal in supporting our own. We need to put pressure. In fact, because one of the things that helped Victor Osimhen at Napoli was the fans, the reaction of the fans.
Yeah.
Both Napoli fans, both non-Napoli fans. It was the reaction and the from the fans, that pressured Napoli into acting, the way they did, and it gave Victor Osimhen the right, to do whatever he had to do. But for Ademola Lookman's case, it was a different thing. It was now a case of the fans, or it was more like a 50-50 thing. Some people siding with the club, siding with the fans and everything. That was what made Lookman so difficult. But I think I agree with everything Eru has said, and I'm just going to put this as an addition that any Nigerian player going to the Italian Serie A, you need to make sure that the details of your contract have, some things that would put you at an advantage over the club. I know they would not want to do that. I mean, the Italians sometimes can be amazing people, if you understand what I mean. But still, that is why you need to have a good agent that would go through all of those details to ensure that, I would have said Thunder doesn't strike twice in the same place, but it has done that already. So let's say it doesn't strike a third time.
Thank you so much, Wisdom. The principality of things that I like calling him that, the principality of sports. I like calling that. Unfortunately, we don't have time anymore. We would have gone to Super Eagles camp in Morocco, but we don't have time. But that concludes this edition of the P&B Sports Show. The development surrounding Nana Kwame Abraham and Ademola Lookman underscore the urgent need for stronger structure, clearer accountability, and a deeper commitment to professionalism across level of the game. We extend our sincere gratitude to our esteemed analyst Eru John from the ancient city of Benin, and also Chimoba Wisdom from the Center of Excellence Lagos for their thoughtful perspective. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming to the show this morning. All right,
thank you so much.
All right, you can connect with us in all social media platforms on YouTube and Facebook at Politics&BusinessTV.English, on IG at PNBTV_English, on X at PNBTV_ENG. I'm Abel Sunday. From me and the entire team here in Abuja, I say goodbye.